Welcome to the new volunteer orientation for the American Red Cross Southeast Louisiana Chapter. This orientation will provide a brief history of the American Red Cross, the mission and its 7 fundamental principles, as well as information about the Southeast Louisiana Chapter and our volunteer opportunities. Welcome to our chapter. After witnessing the carnage of the Battle of Solferino in 1859, Swiss businessman Henry Dunant called for the formation of an impartial, neutral, and independent humanitarian aid organization tasked with protecting the lives and dignity of victims of war. Dunant's vision led to the birth of the International Committee of the Red Cross in 1863 in Geneva, Switzerland. Dunant's humanitarian vision quickly spread throughout Europe, resulting in the ratification of the First Geneva Convention by 12 European countries, which created rules protecting both soldiers and civilians in combat zones. The International Committee of the Red Cross, or ICRC, continues today to protect both soldiers and civilians in armed conflicts. Depending on the country, the ICRC is identified by one of the following 3 symbols: the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, or the Red Crystal. Soon after the creation of the ICRC, people began to form their own Red Cross chapters in countries throughout the world. On May 21, 1881, Clara Barton and a circle of acquaintances founded the American Red Cross in Washington, D.C. Ms. Barton was inspired to form an American Red Cross chapter by both Dunant and her own experiences as a witness to the bloodshed of the American Civil War. Ms. Barton headed the Red Cross for 23 years, during which time it conducted the first domestic and overseas disaster relief efforts, aided the United States military during the Spanish-American War, and campaigned successfully for both the inclusion of peacetime relief work and for the ratification of the First Geneva Convention by Congress. The Red Cross received its first congressional charter in 1900 and its second in 1905. The charter, which remains in effect today, sets forth the purposes of the organization, which include providing national and international disaster relief and serving as a medium of communication between members of the American Armed Forces and their families. Prior to the First World War, the Red Cross introduced first aid, water safety, and public health nursing programs. With the outbreak of war, the organization experienced phenomenal growth. Membership grew from 17,000 to more than 20 million adults and 11 million junior Red Cross members. The public contributed $400 million in funds and material to support Red Cross programs. After World War II, the Red Cross introduced the first nationwide civilian blood program, which now supplies nearly 50% of the blood and blood products in America. Since World War II, the Red Cross has expanded its role in biomedical research and entered the new field of human tissue banking and distribution. It has also expanded its services into such fields as civil defense, CPR and AED training, HIV/AIDS education, and the provision of emotional care and support to those affected by disasters and their families. While closely associated with the government in the promotion of its objectives, the Red Cross is an independent, volunteer-led organization and is financially supported by voluntary public contributions. The American Red Cross joins more than 175 other national societies in bringing aid to those impacted by natural disasters throughout the world. The mission. The American Red Cross, a humanitarian organization led by volunteers and guided by its congressional charter and the fundamental principles of the International Red Cross movement, will provide relief to victims of disasters and help people prevent, prepare for, and respond to emergencies. As members of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, the American Red Cross and other national societies have a key role in abiding by the 7 fundamental principles. Humanity. The International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, born of a desire to bring assistance without discrimination to the wounded on the battlefield, endeavors in its international and national capacity to prevent and alleviate human suffering wherever it may be found. It promotes mutual understanding, friendship, cooperation, and lasting peace amongst all people. Impartiality. It makes no discrimination as to nationality, race, religious beliefs, class, or political opinions. It endeavors to relieve the suffering of individuals, being guided solely by their needs and to give priority to the most urgent cases of distress. Neutrality. In order to continue to enjoy the confidence of all, the movement may not take sides in hostilities or engage at any time in controversies of a political, racial, religious, or ideological nature. Independence. The movement is independent. The national societies, while auxiliaries in the humanitarian services of their governments and subject to the laws of their respective countries, must always maintain their autonomy so that they may be able at all times to act in accordance with the principles of the movement. Voluntary service. It is a voluntary relief movement, not prompted in any manner by desire for gain. Unity. There can be only one Red Cross or Red Crescent Society in any one country. It must be open to all, and it must carry on its humanitarian work throughout its territory. Universality. The International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, in which all societies have equal status and share responsibilities and duties in helping each other, is worldwide. The Southeast Louisiana Chapter was chartered in 1916 and has provided essential services and support since its inception. This chapter serves more than 1.2 million people throughout Orleans, Jefferson, Plaquemines, St. Charles, St. John, Assumption, Lafourche, Terrebonne, St. Mary, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, and Washington parishes. Each year, our chapter responds to approximately 700 local disasters, provides service to 2,700 local military members, educates 35,000 people in disaster preparedness, and educates 38,000 people in health and safety techniques. The chapter consists of 4 regions, with offices located in Madisonville, Luling, Thibodaux, and the headquarters, which is located in New Orleans. The Southeast Louisiana Chapter provides services in health and safety education, disaster preparedness and response, and community outreach. Volunteers are our most important asset, and they fill critical roles in each department at our chapter. The Health and Safety Department works primarily in community education. Volunteers are needed as course instructors, office assistants, and as Red Cross representatives for health fairs, trade shows, and other community events. Health and Safety offers training in community first aid, CPR, AED, basic first aid training, babysitting, lifeguard training, basic water safety, and pet first aid. In 2009, the Southeast Louisiana Chapter responded to a disaster every 8 hours, making it the 4th busiest chapter in the country. Each year, the American Red Cross responds immediately to more than 67,000 disasters, including floods, hurricanes, house or apartment fires, earthquakes, tornadoes, hazardous material spills, transportation accidents, explosions, and other natural and man-made disasters. Fires occur every day. Along with the Disaster Action Supervisor, DAT members respond immediately to house fires and other local disasters to provide families with emergency financial aid and supplies. When large groups of people are temporarily displaced from their homes, the American Red Cross opens and operates emergency shelters. The Red Cross uses volunteers to drive emergency response vehicles to deliver food to people affected by disasters. Logistics is the behind-the-scenes aspect of a disaster operation. Logistics workers ensure that staff and volunteers have everything they need to provide emergency services. During a disaster of any magnitude, the Red Cross is there to make sure people's basic health needs are met. Also during a disaster, the Red Cross provides mental health professionals to help people cope with difficult times. The Red Cross works with the United States military to provide secure emergency information to our men and women serving around the world. A few of the emergency services training courses include IRV Operation, Logistics Overview, Shelter Operations, and the Disaster Action Team Workshop. Volunteers perform a large part of administrative tasks at our chapter. At each regional office, volunteers can assist with numerous activities, including volunteer recruitment, data management, clerical activities, reception, and phone calling. Volunteers provide the foundation upon which the American Red Cross stands. It is through the work and dedication of our volunteers that the Southeast Louisiana Chapter fulfills its mission.